It is our custom that you introduce yourself and tell us who you are as if nobody knows who the hell you are. Go.
Hi, I'm Greg Bailey. I work for GreenArrays, which was founded in 2009 on Friday, the 13th of February, by Chuck Moore and all of us who had been working with him for a fellow named Daniel E. Leckrone at a company called Intelisys. And when we were all laid off from there, we basically spun out with, in fact, no help at all from Intelisys in the process. I was going to make a couple of brief remarks before we run these videos. First remarks are thanks for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it. We've been here for a while, obviously, but this is a friendly environment. These are friendly folks here. I'd like to make a couple comments resonating first with what John Reibel reported about Slurp. I also named my fourth implementation Flux, F-L-U-X, which was an acronym for Forth-like Language for Unpretentious Zero Files, for the same for the same reason that John named his Slurp. We were afraid we didn't yet know that Elizabeth and Ned were human beings, and so we were afraid of them. We were afraid of Forthink. At any rate, that was misplaced fear. Chris Lazinski pointed out last year that some people had missed the fact that our computers do not have clocks as such. Chuck has the balls to design a computer with no clock. This is a thing that people generally are not ballsy enough to do. They were in the old days. In the 50s, there were clockless computers. But more recently, people put clocks in their computers. And why are the clocks there? The function of a clock is to slow down the logic. If you actually look at the designs, you'll discover that is what they are for, is to slow down the logic. By having no clock, it's possible to let the logic run at full speed, which is a very advantageous thing to be able to do. Also, years ago, just to prove a point, I laid out a clock distribution network for a machine the size of one of our F-18s. Those are the computers of which our chips have 144 of them, and measured its energy consumption using our simulator, which is fairly accurate in this regard. And much to my delight and amusement, it burned as much continuous power as does one of our computers running at 100% duty cycle flat out. So, for example, to have one of those clock distribution networks in our computer slowing it down, we would have on the order of twice the power being consumed. Not quite on the same order because, of course, the computer would have been slowed down by the clock circuit. And so many of those gates would not be flipping quite as fast as they could. Many of those capacitive loads would not be changing state. But at any rate, Chuck had the balls to do this. And we have, in fact, made them very, very reliable. They act just like computers. They will sit there and execute many billions of instructions correctly. And I haven't had one fall over without having a power glitch hit it. So there we go. And we don't have clocks. Incidentally, even if you have a clock and shut it down occasionally to go into sleep mode, as it's often called, clocks don't stop instantaneously and they don't start instantaneously. And so there is a triangle of power consumption that you integrate under to determine how much power is squandered starting a clock and stopping a clock. And every start-stop instance costs that on a conventional computer with a clock that has a sleep mode. Whereas our sleep mode is we get to a gate that says whether to execute the next instruction, and the gate says no, and we stop within 100 picoseconds. The power consumption is immeasurable. And so that's quite a different phenomenon. At any rate, Chris had said that a lot of people didn't make that connection. They didn't understand we didn't have a clock and that had something to do with our energy efficiency. It has a lot to do with our energy efficiency. Chris also at the same time suggested that crypto mining was an obvious application for us, but actually it isn't because our hardware is not competitive in such mining. Cryptocurrency mining is 100% duty cycle activity. It's best done by the best and most expensive technology you can get your hands onto at that moment, and you'd better use the hell out of it because the rate at which the difficulty of crypto mining, at least for Bitcoin, increases is such that, at least at the time we were first looking at this, monthly, the difficulty and therefore the amount of machine time you had to spend solving for a given hash was doubling. And so after 10 months, you now had lost a factor of 1,024 out of the cache efficiency of your crypto mining hardware until you came up with millions of dollars to lay out the next chip and the next greatest current technology. So no, it's not the game for us. Um, Usually when we excel at programming, we do it by simplifying the problem. And it's the nature of cryptocurrency mining that this is a cryptographic exercise. If I can find a way to simplify the performance of a cryptographic algorithm, I have most likely discovered a serious security flaw with that algorithm. And most people will be real interested to hear about that so they can stop using it while they figure out the implications of that possible simplification. Excuse me. So, thank you for those observations, Chris. It is really great to see old friends here. I haven't commented on this before, but damn it. For example, we have in our midst, still awake, Chuck, our Sifu, which is a term that is used by some of us, particularly that practice internal arts, for an internal martial art instructor who is introducing us to not just a particular skill, but also to a philosophy, a set of ethics, a craft, a tradition. And Chuck has brought all those things to us by his insistence on flipping the bird to convention and asking, why do I need all this? Why in the hell do I need all this stuff to solve a simple problem? When actually the problem is much simpler than anybody thinks it is, because they love making things sound complicated because it makes them seem important to their buddies. And that's anybody that hasn't participated in such a conversation in a school context, I guess just wasn't there when I was there. But once upon a time, it was regarded as being a real important indicator of how cool you were that you could make things complicated. And Chuck, of course, demonstrated with existence proofs that that's BS. Thank you, Chuck. We have other collaborators here, some missing. Leon is gone, traveling. Cy, I usually like to get to see him out there. John Reibel, very long time friend. And John, I trust you with my life too, buddy, and with my kids. And a lot of people have, by the way. John also teaches kids how to do basic things like throwing rocks, setting fires, using knives, all the things that a lot of folks are scared to let kids have anything to do with, and he teaches them how to use these things properly, and yay for him. And all the regulars that are here for SV Fig meetings, it's good to see you guys. I also would like to remember those who have fallen, at least in our small group. In my, actually, our small group and my customer base, we've had Mike LaManna, we've had Min Moore, we've had Don Colburn, Jeff Fox, Ed Sisler, Will Baden, Bill Munch, Glenn Sanderson, Chet Brown, Steve Metter, Skip Inskeep, Mike Benedict, and Howie Goodell, just for starters. We've lost a lot of good friends during these last 50 years. And some of those we lost very early in that sequence. And we also have some new friends. Let's see, right now it is about 2300 Central European time, and I believe that's the clock that Kay Lack runs on. And if you're still awake, Kay, it's really nice to see you here. It's not often that we gain new friends in this community, sadly enough, and let's try and do something about that. We are going to try and do something about that, in fact. Our status is that we're now headquartered in rural north central Missouri. I'm learning personally a little something about subsistence farming, which is an interesting way to enhance your life. I recommend it to everybody. We're very much still alive and very much resuming very energetic progress. We are introducing a new product called Volatco, Volatco, from a very interesting and excellent collaboration. Volatco represents a major step into what we think is a better way to empower the creation of useful machine intelligence in contexts like industrial control and embedded robotics. Algorithms first expressed by David L. Heiserman from cybernetics' concepts of adaptation that has led to ideal, currently being expressed by us in high-level fourth augmented by parallel native F18 code in our chips. You can find out more about this by going to the GreenArrays website. There is a section on the very first page that talks about latest developments. And in that section, we will mention what we're doing with Villatco, and we will include a link on there. There is a link there now, as at this moment, to an Indiegogo campaign that is almost ready to be turned into pre-release. As soon as that campaign is lit off, that link will work and you'll be able to find out continuous updates on what we're doing. I'm going to use the remainder of our time here, which, by the way, will leave the group done a half hour almost early, which is nice. So the closure of this day's session will be about 25 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes early. But we have started making a new series of videos. The videos originated because Kevin of SVFig asked for some videos explaining how to install and turn on and do something with Array43. And this isn't a trivial subject, especially if people are not acquainted with Polyforth, which is something that we would like people to become acquainted with. And so for the next hour or so, we're going to run a series, the introductory series of these videos, which pertains on a contextual formulation video, and then some videos on installing Array43 and doing various simple things with it. This will be augmented very soon. We're going to continue making these with videos that explain how to make some F18 code, how to execute it inside the chip, how to find out what it did, how to interact with the outside world, how to interact with yourself from the inside world, and all the wonderful things you can do with it. So this will be an exposure on the new series of videos that will be a lot more complete in the oncoming weeks. That's really what the schedule is that we add to this immediately before the end of the year. So any feedback that you can give us on that will be greatly appreciated. My email address is greg@greenarraychips, all one agglutinative word.com. And if you have difficulty remembering that, another one that works is greg@its42, its42.com, which should mean something if you know who Douglas Adams is. And so with that, Brad, if you don't mind rolling it, I'm done until we find out whether we have any questions.
Thank
I
you,
wish
Greg.
everybody well.
Thank you.
Greetings, I'm Greg Bailey from GreenArrays. We're engaged